Okay, we're about 11 o'clock, and having done a lot of theater in my life, I'm a big fan of starting on time for the people that showed up on time. Everybody else is welcome to keep piling in as we get started. Let me click share my screen, and then I'll kind of walk you through um, what we're planning for today. A virtual environment's always just a little bit different than a real live presentation. But you should, I think, see a screen right now that says Perfect Instructional Video, and I am Dan Hurlbert. We also have Kristen here, who's a part of the conference, and she is going to help make sure I don't skew too far off track, and she'll continue to let people in as they're joining. But I'm Dan, and really, my background here is, they call me a media and design specialist down at Carleton College over in Minnesota. I've got an MFA in digital cinema, and I worked as an actor and director and instructor for about 15 years. I was blessed to be at a high school that liked having the guy teaching film and theater actually working in that area. So they let me leave whenever I needed to go to an audition or to a shoot. It was really a good deal. So I had a great experience doing that for about 15 years. And then I jumped down here to Carleton, which has also been great. I now manage campus video production. I have about 30 students that work with me, and we handle all kinds of things that is event related, and I do specifically any of the video production for it. And I spelled faculty wrong at the bottom of my slide. So you can tell I sometimes fly by the seat of my pants. But I also assist faculty in making instructional videos. And a big part of that is knowing the answer that when faculty ask, well, if I want to do this with my instructional video, does that mean the students are going to learn more? Are they going to pull this away? Should my face be in an instructional video or not? And there's always a great, robust debate, healthy and friendly. And all we can do, I think, in our role is to say, well, here's kind of what the research says, but you're welcome to make the best decision for yourself. And so when I talk about a perfect instructional video, I've really, with the assistance of some of my students, we pulled together a lot of research on what really helps students learn the best, what helps the general feeling of a course or an instructor based on the videos that they're sharing. And then we created a series of eight videos that kind of become a self-serve place for our faculty to go and check out and learn what kinds of things that they might want to employ when they're doing their own instructional videos. So in this website, and in just a minute, I'll just invite you folks to go and poke around and watch a few of the videos, and then I will just stay here in this Zoom link and answer questions as you have them. But I've really kind of modeled instruction. We use Moodle here as an LMS, and I didn't build this in Moodle because I wanted folks outside of Carleton to be able to access and kind of see how this might work in other LMSs too. So we've just built this and modeled the training using a website. So when you click on, or when I share that link with you, if you haven't found it already in the description of this presentation, go ahead, poke around a little bit. There are some additional resources that you're welcome to download. You are also welcome to share those if this site or any of those resources seem like a good fit for you where you're working. Feel free to share that with your faculty too. So at the bottom of this slide is that URL. It's also on the bottom of this one, and then I'll paste it into the chat if you haven't found it. So we have 50 minutes, 50 minutes. And each one of these little videos lasts maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes. There are some quizzes that are built into this directly through Panopto. But if those of you that are using Panopto know that it doesn't work outside of your institution, I did put in that feature request. And if anybody else is using Panopto and could put in a feature request that people outside of your institution should be able to view Panopto quizzes, that would be great. So you might see as you're watching some of these, a screen pop up and say, a quiz should appear here, but that may not for you. Afterwards, or when you're bored, just come on back. Feel free to ask me some more questions and then use and share as desired. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can paste that URL into the chat. And then right now, you're welcome to click on that and go visit, play around, check out some of those videos. And at the very bottom of that page are all of the resources and the references for our research. So feel free to check that out too if you want to do some reading. And then I'm just here for questions if you got them.
And just for the benefit of attendees in the room, you are able to unmute yourself. So if you have a question you'd prefer to ask out loud, feel free to do so. Or you can post it in the chat.
That sounds great. Thanks, Kristen.
Dan, I'll take a stab at a question.
Sure.
I'm sort of curious about how you're supporting faculty with the recording devices and such. I'm not really diving into the instructional aspect, but trying to set it up as an experience of quality that doesn't dissuade participants from viewing the video, I think is part of the equation. So I'm just curious how you're handling that across your campus, if you're checking out equipment or if you're having faculty come into a recording studio of sorts and you're managing it, and sort of how that's being managed.
Yeah, great question, Cody. Thank you for asking. We do a multitude of things. We do have a checkout center. All faculty now, particularly due to COVID and whatnot, have a webcam. They all were able to sit through about an hour-long training with me about how to frame yourself, light yourself, mic yourself, so that your production value is decent. And then faculty are invited to create as many of these on their own as they would like. We're a Zoom campus, so faculty often just record their meetings in Zoom. When they choose record to the cloud, we're integrated with Panopto. So any of their Zoom recordings go straight into Panopto and they can just quick hack off the beginning and the end and share the URL. There are faculty that have more complex needs. For example, tomorrow I'm filming 3-camera shoot for a guy in geology who wants to show students how to use different pieces of equipment. So when the need comes up, I'll sit and I meet with faculty. I have a handout that's on that website that I shared. I'll stick it back into the chat. If you just joined us, the URL that I put in there is a place that you can go to view some of the training that I share with faculty. And so I don't want to say require, because I work at the behest of the college, but I do want to sit down with faculty and talk through it and say, is a higher production value important for this project? And there's only one of me. And so I'm not able to serve everybody in creating high-end videos, but I do that sometimes.
It sounds like you're using a sort of a one-on-one dialogue to really help boost sort of specific considerations for a particular faculty. One of the things that I've been considering here is how to provide sort of a guideline of, hey, things to think about and diagrams about where to place lighting and what lighting to consider, color balances, those sort of things. So I was curious if you had a resource on that.
I go through and I have, in addition to the Perfect Instructional video thing, I do have some of those that I'll use specifically with faculty. I've got a couple canned presentations that I pull out that show people that shadows are used in horror films because they're scary. So let's get rid of shadows when you're framing yourself or when you're lighting yourself. So there are some of those things that are generally helpful. But I think over the course of the last year, the number of faculty that have really upped their game on wanting to look and appear like they're professional on camera has helped. That concern is real for faculty. See a couple things. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, given you've done this for a few years, have you noticed trends? Do you see something where we're going to in the future?
That's a good question. Let me answer this, Cody, and then I'll answer a couple more that have popped in over in the chat side too. Yes, Carleton has chalkboards. You can see one behind me in every classroom. And that is really how our faculty and our institution, we're residential, We don't teach online until last year. We have really been a face-to-face small class institution. So the trend here is, yeah, our faculty are getting used to like having some canned videos, introductions and things, and there will be more online instruction even for face-to-face classes. And I think everybody will experience that. Outside of that, you know, for some of your larger institutions or institutions that are already teaching online, I can't speak to that, but I can certainly say that that faculty everywhere are more comfortable now teaching online, and they're finding benefits to creating canned instructional videos. And if they know they could reuse those videos, they want them done better. And so tips like don't ever mention a date, don't ever mention an assignment in an instructional video is important. And that's one of those perfect instructional videos tips too, because as soon as you mention a date or an assignment, then you want to change one of those things and you have to redo your video. I stuck in, for those people that just joined, you're able to join and be a part of this conversation, but I'd also encourage you to go to the URL that I've put in the chat there, so you can review some of the tips that I share with faculty and how I modeled what it might involve teaching online using what I call perfect instructional videos. Nina asked faculty, if faculty don't have access to Panopto editing tools or Panopto itself, what might you recommend for a user-friendly video editor? My first answer is whatever you're familiar with, because most of the time for our instructional videos, if you can screen record, there's very little editing required. If you need it to be high-end production value, then that might be a different conversation. So, you know, there's apps on your phone like Premiere, what is it, Rush, or if QuickTime offers an easy way. Just open up a video in QuickTime. You can hack off the beginnings and the ends of a video in QuickTime really easily. If anybody's using a Mac, they've got iMovie, and that's a fine tool too. For me, I prefer Adobe Premiere. I'm very familiar with. I've done a little bit with Avid and a lot with Final Cut as well. But Adobe Premiere is what we generally use here on campus. Somebody mentioned, Tabitha, thank you, said YouTube Studio is a good option as well. Do I have a process? Ashley asked, do you have a process for gathering feedback from students on videos, content length, etc.? The 30 students that work for me give me feedback all the time, and they are in classes, and they sometimes share information offhand about how instructional videos are going in certain classes and what kinds of things would be helpful. I don't have a formal process, but I do know a lot of faculty have an end of course survey, and encouraging the faculty to include something, a question or two about how do you think the video quality was, would give the faculty feedback. For me specifically, having been through so much of the research and done a lot of video work on my own, there's a handful of things that I guess are innate to me. I just know keep your video under 6 minutes, period. If it's longer than that, break it into 2 separate videos. You lose attention. 80% of your viewers have left by minute 6, unless you have an assessment directly tied to the assignment. So, and that's one of those tips you might find in the perfect instructional videos too, that faculty member says, I got a great 40-minute lecture, I just need to make a video on it. And I'd say, no, you actually need to break that into, 7 different videos and have a nice little beginning and ending to each one of them. And then after each one of them, have some kind of an associated assessment. Otherwise, a student will quit watching it unless they know there's something they have to do, or they get distracted, which is why, another tip you might see in those instructional videos is asking a rhetorical question. What do you folks do to determine if your videos are effective? As soon as you go quiet, everybody panics and thinks that something's wrong. He's looking at me, I need to do something. And that pulls the student back into the video as well. So even a rhetorical question can have the same impact as popping a question up on the screen or saying, answer these questions after you watch the video. Let me see if I see more. And if you do have questions, some people are putting them into the chat. If you have questions and you want to unmute your mic, feel free to ask. And if you want to just go check out the Perfect Instructional videos on your own now or later, you're welcome to do that too.
I have a question, Dan, if you don't mind. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yep, I got you. Is that Courtney?
So yes. Hi, everyone. So I am in a corporate environment currently, but I'm not sure if you ever create videos for new faculty for an onboarding, whether you're working with your human resources department or not. But I was just wondering, one, if you do create those, how do you have like a rule of thumb of how many micro learning videos that you'll include in a learning path for those? Or the length of, maybe not the number of videos, but the length of time. I like to split them up in chunks, but sometimes when you're working with subject matter experts, the list can become very long,
Yeah.
15 courses
Yeah.
very quickly. So I just wasn't sure if from your experience, if you have any advice in terms of not only structuring the video, but the whole journey of how long you should keep those for.
That's a good question. And you're absolutely right that it does depend a little bit on what the content is. And so I can't say, 5 videos or 10 videos. What we do is I say, what are the 5 to 7 most important things that someone absolutely has to know in order to get started on this job or to do it competently? Quick click on something here that I'll click share screen again and show you this. So for a number of our tools, such as Panopto, and we do this for Zoom, and I'm kind of the administrator for both Panopto and Zoom and a number of other video related things. Whenever somebody logs in to whatever they're doing, I like them to see where the resources are. And this really cuts down, and I don't want to say I don't want to meet with people. I prefer people to machines. But I want them to quickly see how to get started with it, how to find the recorder, how to share the videos. And so I will create, and you can see I did 5 of these on my own as part of, this is how people will get started in it. I then learn, as people come to me with questions, this is a problem. And so I've identified 3 things that are common issues, or that might be the next tier of support, so they can get through the basic stuff. I know everybody needs to know these 5 things, and then course B might be the advanced course, and that might be, okay, now we're going to talk about faculty who want to go further with Panopto and create assignment folders, or how they, or where these other things are. So it really depends on what your needs are. There isn't a right or wrong on how many videos, but there really is something to keeping those videos shorter than 6 minutes and having some activity, no matter how basic, associated with those. We're still having people come and go through this, so I'm going to just stick the URL back in that chat. If you're not familiar with Zoom, people who join later don't see the chat thread from prior. So if you're just joining us, there's a URL in the chat that you can click on, and it will take you to the resources that you can review that are tied to the Perfect Instructional video. And what we're inviting folks to do is review 2 or 3 of those videos, kind of take a look at the interface, and if you have questions, come on back and ask them. And then feel free to do that by muting or unmuting your mic, or popping something in the chat, and I'll just kind of keep rolling.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So I know it's better to have chunks of videos, smaller chunks rather than a longer one, but particularly like in Panopto, it does index it. And so what do you think about the idea of perhaps a longer one? Because if you would chop your lecture up into 6 videos, it might be hard to get the continuity there. So what about if you do a longer one, but you periodically put the questions in, like where you would have ended the smaller video, and then maybe put a little music interlude and say, okay, get up and stretch now, and then go on to the next one. So that might be another option.
Yeah, that's a great point. Breaking, I guess, more important than having the video be under 6 minutes. It's breaking up and engaging people during the time that they're watching it. So lots of our faculty now, particularly because, and somebody asked this question, David, I think asked the question about high flex or teaching hybrid courses where some of your students are in the classroom and some of them are online. A big part of what we're doing there is encouraging everybody to record the session, and then it goes directly into Panopto, and students can come back and see the 40-minute or 50-minute lecture in its entirety. If you're using the auto caption feature in whatever your video capture system is, and Panopto is just one of many. We've been through a couple different ones here, and we like Panopto. But that indexing, that captioning feature lets students easily go through and find moments in the video just through the search feature, so they can find important points. So yes, I think that's a viable option. But I would say if you are posting a 40-minute video, that you do find a way to stop students halfway through, or every 6, 5, 7 minutes, and say, and ask them a question or ask them to do something, so that you're forcing engagement again. And that's really the hardest thing with video, is how do you know they're engaged, and how do you measure that? So good question, Jerry. Thank you. I'm scrolling back up through the chats on the side.
Hi, Dan. I had a question too.
Yeah.
I am getting ready to do a summer webinar on how to record videos for lecture purposes. Is there any advice you can give me? I know don't let them, or suggest that they don't include dates or include assignments, but are there any other kind of quick tips that I could use?
Can you hit me with the very first premise? Who's your audience here?
I'm sorry. I'm at a land grant school, South Dakota State University. So it would be for our faculty for online.
I did summer theater there. It was fantastic. I'm a South Dakotan by birth, I guess. I call it God's country. I still love driving out there, and it opens up and flattens out. That's great.
Yes, I'm from Wyoming, but this has been my home for almost as long as well. So
it's good. So the question is tips specifically for
online lectures. So we use Zoom. Currently, we're also a Zoom campus. And so one of the things that I'm finding is faculty are having a hard time engaging their students. And one of the suggestions I always have is do a Zoom meeting that you can then record. That's a lecture style, even including breakout rooms. And so I'm just kind of looking for quick tips or ideas that faculty can use, in particular with ag, since we're an agricultural school.
Right. Well, that's something we've gone through a fair amount in the last year with our faculty too. And really the trick is, and the pyramid of learning, whether or not you subscribe to it entirely or not. We know that students who get to work with their hands are either emotionally connected to the content or are physically involved with the content, are going to remember what they learn more. So if we're given a great big long lecture, or we have, some of us are doing 1.5 hour labs, then the key here is breaking it up. So you might have Google Docs, and you might say, okay, everybody, you're in your groups, why don't you go work on this Google Doc? Or I don't love Jamboard, but it's an option where students can make Post-it notes and brainstorm or something like that. A breakout room is good, but any of these things work best when there is a specific deliverable that the group has to come back with. So if you say, hey, everybody, why don't you go jump into your breakout room, and we'll come back in 10 minutes and want you to talk about this for a little bit. What we find from our students, and I don't think it's just Carleton students, is that some folks in those breakout rooms tune out. the professor isn't here watching, I'm just gonna, these two people will take care of that, and I'm gonna zone out. So making sure that in a lecture, when you break them into groups, that you give deliverables, and there is something that needs to come back to you. Whether or not you grade it, very different, but that the student believes or knows that you are asking for some verification that you're working in there. And then from there, if there's a website that is specific to your content that you can have people go and study, there's a really cool tool that we started playing around with here called Mind Map. I think it's mindmapper.com. That lets you create bubbles and pull downs and threads. It's maybe like a high-end Jamboard. So the key is not just creating breakout rooms and saying do something. It's having a deliverable when you're breaking up the rooms. If you haven't been watching the chat and you had questions about some tools for editing or filming, many of you are putting in really good tips of software that you use or that your faculty are using. I see a question in here. Linda, did I get that well enough for you?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, sure. Paul asks, would love to hear suggestions for creating overhead videos. She creates instructional videos where we need to show hands creating projects. Product recommendations. This is good. This is a good question. And like all of you who'd had to source equipment in the last year, and suddenly you discover that the tools that you usually make available to faculty are no longer available because everybody else bought them, is very real. So all of our faculty receive a Logitech C930 or a C930E webcam. And I, a few years ago, I actually developed, and I love this product. I don't know if you can see it. I can't grab it. It's called the Little Prompter. It's a tiny little teleprompter that I developed a couple of years ago, and I was able to develop it, market, and sell it. And then another company has since taken that and run with it. There's a few other products on the market now, but it is a tiny little teleprompter that you can hook over your computer, or you can put on a little tripod. You put a DSLR behind it or a webcam behind it. And I experimented with lots of webcams, trying to figure out what was the best recommendation here. And the Logitech C930 has a great little lens on it. You can get them for under $100, and they have good audio. And then you can also put it on a little tripod and tip it down so that you can get folks working with your hands. Outside of that, there are lots of different document cameras, and you can certainly use a document camera. The only one that we found that really didn't work well was one that looked like a ladybug, but I don't remember what the brand was, and some of you may have had better success with it. But a document camera works pretty darn well too. You've probably, Paula, already experimented with some of those. The key for good video, no matter what device you're using, is lighting. You can have a great expensive camera and then light it poorly, and your video quality looks terrible. So recommending, a little bitty ring light, which I have off here on the side of my camera, in addition to a little bit of light coming in on the other side, and making sure that your hands are lit well too from two directions is important, so that you get rid of the shadows in there. And that's really the key for good lighting, unless you want it to look like a horror film, which there might be reason to do that. I hope that answered. Feel free to bounce back in if you have more questions.
Yeah, thanks. Do you have any suggestions for small lights, or does anybody else, small lights that I could just set up at my desk when I need to do the video? Oh, there's so many on Amazon. It's impossible to just sort through them. So if anybody has any that they've used and like, it would be helpful.
If you do, please stick that in the chat. It would be great. I can't see the brand I have, but I do really like the ring lights, both because they fit on a tripod and you don't have to stick your camera dead center in the middle of them. But the ring light kind of gives you two directions of light anyway. I still have a desk lamp off to the side that really behaves as my fill, and my ring light behaves as the key light for me. But I don't have that brand, so sorry. Ring lights are good, especially if you can dim. If you can dim the light, it's good, and if you can change the color temperature. The more of those kinds of things you add to the light that you get, the more expensive it is. But being able to dim and adjust the color temperature is a big thing. I'm just reading through the chat for questions, but if you have some and you want to just ask them, you sure may. I see somebody used Yuja, and we also used Yuja for a few years. I think we were early in their development, and I think they've come a long way since we switched over to Panopto, but we did use Yuja. For people that are still joining, I just put a URL in the chat, and I'm just answering questions people have, but you can click on that URL and go and kind of take a tour through the tips that I share with faculty and kind of how I model building a course.
I have a quick question. This is Amy from Oregon State University. I was curious, does Panopto interface with your LMS for assessments? So if you put your video, put quizzes into your video, will it automatically talk to your LMS and grade the assessment?
I'm gonna, if someone else is more familiar with what that can do, we're in Moodle, and I do know that there is a way for them to integrate. Sarah, thank you.
We use Canvas, and so you can use polling and basically pull in points into Canvas when you create a poll question in Panopto.
Okay.
I think the way ours, there may now be an integration with Moodle. I think the way our faculty were doing it was they were downloading a CSV file, and then up.
We had both Blackboard and Canvas. They integrate with the polling in the Grade Center.
Okay. Yeah, we use Kaltura, and in it integrates with Canvas for true, false, and multiple choice questions. If you want to do, any open-ended, you can get it through analytics. You can see what the student response is, but it doesn't port over to Canvas.
Also, another one is Poll Everywhere that we use for grading. So again, it's not going to be integrated with your videos. However, you could do a pre-polling, prior to the video or post. So you can have them watch their video, and then as a class, you do the polling together, and that's an option as well that we tell faculty. Sorry, Sarah Blake, instructional analyst at Chapman University.
Cool, thank you, Sarah. Appreciate you chiming in.
Yeah, we have Top Hat here, I think, which sounds like it does what Poll Everywhere does. Okay, thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, we looked into Top Hat too, but Poll Everywhere was a little more robust. But things change.
Great. Good. I think I made it through any of the questions that folks have put in the chat. So if you have more, feel free to, or if I missed you, feel free to just unmute your mic and let me know. And then if you feel like you kind of got the gist, and or you want to just review the Perfect Instructional video website on your own, you are welcome to do that and to run away. All of us get tired of sitting and zooming all day long, so I'm not offended if you leave early.
Dan, we've had a couple of folks come and go. Can you pop that link in the chat again?
Sure, you bet. I'll wait until Doug gets in, and I will stick that back in the chat. For those of you who are just joining late, thank you for jumping in on this. We are talking about perfect instructional videos, and I put a link in the chat because this is really just kind of a float around and check out things on your own and then ask questions afterwards. So if you go to the Perfect Instructional video link, you'll see how I've kind of modeled the class, and it is full of actual tips that our faculty are using when they're creating instructional videos. So it both models how to teach it, but it also refers to research on how to produce these kind of videos. So check that out on your own, and then let me know if you have additional questions afterwards. And for the other two that just popped in right now, there's a link you can check out in the chat, and then ask me questions if you got them.
I had a question. Am I able to ask a question?
You're welcome to. Whether or not you're
I'm
able,
welcome
we'll
to.
find
Well,
out.
sure. I will. This is Ed Ostrander from Oregon State
Oh,
University.
sure.
How
Hey,
you
Ed.
doing? Hey, Dan. How you doing? Good to see you
Doing
again.
well. I appreciate the listservs you guys got going out there. Thank you.
Certainly, yeah. Well, that all to Raul, who's helping organize a lot of this conference. So,
Good.
anyways, yeah, my question is, and maybe it's a little bit of a tangent to this, but there's a question earlier in the chat about any student feedback that instructors have been receiving, and/or any post-assessment that you or your team are looking at as far as relations to sort of student outcomes or learning outcomes with or without video, and how that video is used. So really tracing kind of I guess that whole life cycle of how the video is used and any impacts it's had. Again, maybe a tangent, but just a question that we're kind of wrestling with, and how we take this to the next step after production, right?
Great. You know, with the videos that we produce, what I should say are produced videos, we do share a survey with faculty about how was the quality, how did it work for you, that kind of thing. And we generally get, 1 of 10 faculty who take the time to give that feedback. As an institution, really teaching via video is quite new for us. So what we did last fall, at the end of the fall, is there was a survey sent out. It was actually at the end of spring term last year. Survey sent out to students that said, how was this experience for you? And there was, maybe 30 questions about video quality or instruction quality or audio and video. And what was the experience like? And the feedback that comes to me then is, hey, Dan, these are the 2 faculty who we need to touch base with, because the general feedback to them was lower. But I don't, in my role, reach out, and I'm not encouraged to reach out to faculty saying, hey, how are your videos working, that kind of thing. But as the institution and the dean's office, they have sent out some surveys, and then when there is a need, I learn about it. For me, what's nicest is word of mouth business. I get really busy over breaks and summer producing good videos, and that's just because faculty and I are swamped during the term. And then when they have a little bit of downtime, they said, Dan, I need a 3-video series that does this, this, and this. And then I spend some time working with them, producing them. And then I've got talented students who do most of that editing for me. So Ed, it's a great question. I wish I had more specific information based on video usage. One of the neat statistics we had last year was in the first 2 weeks of March in 2020, we had 18 videos viewed in Panopto. And in the first 2 weeks of March this year, we had 113 videos viewed in March. And so what we will be able to pull from those statistics, just looking at engagement time, like how long are people watching these videos, we'll be able to pull some of that information just off of the huge amount of data we'll be able to see. Good question. Thank you, Ed. I hope I answered it by not really answering it.
No, thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Again, if you're just joining, you're welcome to just sit and ask me questions about creating what I call perfect instructional videos. But there's a link in the chat that will give you lots of good resources for how you can help your faculty create instructional videos too, or you can help them create their own. And that's really our goal. Well, my goal.
Hi, Dan. Can I just ask a quick question? I stuck it in the chat box. It's kind of a 101 question, but how much do you recommend that that instructional videos be FaceTime, lecture, talking, and the sharing of a screen or the use of PowerPoint or text? I'm just wondering if you have a recipe for that you recommend.
No recipe, but it's a great question. And I don't remember quite which one of those perfect instructional videos answers it more concisely. I will ramble in real life, but on script, I stay pretty close to what I'm supposed to say. Lots of faculty are nervous about appearing on camera, and they might say, I don't want to appear on camera. Can I just do a voiceover with my PowerPoint? And that's a fine solution. Actually, research generally shows that students will pull as much from a video, they will learn as much from a video with the faculty's face in it as they will without the faculty's face in it. But viewer engagement is higher. Students report they think they have learned more if they see the faculty's face in the video, and they report that they usually like the course and the instructor better when they see the instructor's face. That said, we also know that students learn best when what they hear and what they see align. So if what I'm saying is a complicated algorithm or coding or something that would be better if I could show that thing on screen, I would say put the thing on the screen. And sometimes that just means putting the text in there. What are the 10 key points you want students to walk away with from your video? Your face doesn't help students learn those 10 things, but your voice plus the text on screen will help it stick a little bit better for the faculty. So my recommendation is, even for those faculty that don't want to appear on screen, is that greet students. Start your video by saying, hey, everybody, here's what we're going to talk about today, and then switch over to your PowerPoint. And then when you're done, pull your face back in. It is also true that some of us can be distracting on screen. So having your little talking head bubble in the bottom sometimes pulls focus away from the primary content. So there's a trade-off, and a little bit's just nursing it the way you think is best for you. But really, it's whatever's being spoken. If it is a key point you want students to remember, put that visual on the screen. Good question.
Thank you. And some of the tools that you've recommended allow you to share your screen and have a talking head bubble?
If you're using something like Camtasia, one that I actually, Panopto's okay and Zoom's okay. If I'm doing a Zoom video and I just say, hey, everybody, here's what we're doing right now, and then I'm going to share my screen, and I share my screen and then talk through it. Sure, Zoom can do it. Lots of tools can do it. ScreenFlow is an awesome tool for Mac. I don't remember what it costs right now. It's maybe $100, $120. But it is an excellent screen recording tool for people who use Mac. The editing is so easy. The video quality ends up being, I think, a little bit better than something you might get out of Panopto or a browser-based recorder. But yes, you can create an instructional video using all kinds of different tools. And then the question is, how much time do you want to put into the editing? We have about 7 or 8 minutes left, and so I'll just kind of recap and then I'll stick around until Kristen cuts me off, because I can talk for days. I don't know if you've picked up on that. So she'll cut us off and she'll move us on to the next thing when the time comes. But for those of you who just jumped in, if you would like to, the URL that I put in the chat, please feel free to use that and share it with your faculty, or just use it as a resource for yourself. I think there's a lot of good research in there about how to create effective, and I say perfect, instructional videos. Let's see, Jennifer posted something in the chat. Your process for sure. Oh, that's a great question, and I don't know if I should give the exact answer or not. The question is ADA compliance. And we have, like many of you and your institutions, have suddenly gone to everything online, and the cost related to having everything online and being ADA compliant is a pretty heavy cross to bear. Lots of schools struggle with just the cost of captioning things. So in a nutshell, if we have a student who has made the request, or disability offices. We absolutely 100% of the time, we make sure the captions are ADA compliant. We pay for that processing for every video they need to see. For everyone else, we are strongly recommending that they're using the auto caption features in the lecture capture system. For us, that's Panopto. And then anything that is outward facing for us, whether that's going through communications, or if a department is producing some video with me that they want to share outside of it, then they have to have those captions and make sure that we're ADA compliant. But I got to admit, the backlog and the cost associated with keeping everything ADA compliant is difficult, and we're trying hard to keep up with it. And I know we're not hitting it with everything. Good question. And now the chats are rolling in. So I'll read that. But if you have more questions.
I'm just going to point out, we've got about 5 minutes left here, but also please, please, please do fill out the session evaluation. I've thrown the link in the chat, but it's also available on the schedule page.
Good. Thank you, Kristen. Ahmad popped in a note and welcome from Pakistan. Love to have folks from all over. Question is, can you tell us how to teach view time of videos and how to add interaction or quizzes within it, and how to tie that in with your grading system? So if you have a lecture capture tool like a Panopto or like UJA, and if others have lecture capture tools that you like and you'd be willing to stick that in the chat, that would be grand. Ahmad, if you have that tool that has a quiz feature built into it, then that's really the way we do it here. However, if your faculty are creating short videos, and again, I'm going to recommend 6 minutes or less, and I'll go to the grave saying 6 minutes or less. And if you can do 3 minutes, oftentimes 3 minutes is better than 6 minutes. So keeping your video short and then having some kind of a short quiz after the video is also an effective strategy. So if the video doesn't stop partway through and requires somebody to ask the question in order to advance through the video, that's okay. The benefit of having the pop-up quizzes in a video is that it forces engagement. It sucks the student back. But any of the quizzes that are in your LMS or in your lecture capture system, they're mostly just true and false or multiple choice questions, and you can't really gauge learning from it. So the primary goal to me with them is that it forces engagement. It sucks the students back in from, their texting or their screen time or their gaming while they're playing your video. Your videos are fantastic, and I'm sure students are rapt attention with you when they're watching your videos. But in real life, they're distracted, as we all are. Many of you are checking your emails and whatnot during this too. That's okay. So the goal is, how do we pull them back in? And Ahmad, what I would do is say, if you don't have that built into your lecture capture system, then I would say encourage your faculty to have an assessment immediately after students watch it. There should be a short quiz or something that students have to do after watching it. Good question. Amy added a good note about the automatic captionings and some of the lecture capture tools, and those are good, but yes, they are, maybe 85% accurate, and ADA compliant is 99%, 99.5% accurate. So if a faculty member can have a TA or a student go back through and review those captions, that's a great way to have most of the captions built, and then somebody can quick go through and fix some text. It's a good one. Kristen added that there's a session evaluation, and she put that link in the chat. If you would be willing to do that, I would love it. Again, we're wrapping up. I'll answer the last couple of questions here, but do know that if you would like to reach out to me outside of this with more questions, or if you want to collaborate on something, I'd love to do more research on this kind of stuff. And if your school is working on some research and I can be a part of that, my email address is now down there in the chat. Melissa, the Mac tool. Yes. Nina, thank you. ScreenFlow. I believe ScreenFlow is really one of the best, simplest tools. Screencast-O-Matic's also good. Any last minute questions for 20 seconds? Cool. Well, feel free to reach out to me and feel free to share, use or share that link that has the Perfect Instructional videos in it. And thank you. I appreciate you folks jumping in today.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and let this sort of run out for a minute or two. And
Okay.
then, I think we're
hang
good to
tight.
go.
Thank you, folks. A lot of compliments in there. I appreciate it. Just doing my job.